Hi everybody, my name is Rowena Baquera. Thank you for tuning in to Perceptions of Teacher Effectiveness and the use of an evidence-based observation tool amongst novice and experienced physical educators. So what is the physical education trifecta? It is the challenge in three main areas that led to the design of this study. One, it's very challenging to have accountability when we do not have some type of common or statewide assessment in physical education. Two, the research has shown that we define effective teaching in physical education in many different ways. For some, it is moderate to vigorous physical activity levels. To others, it might be the development of motor skills. Yet to others might be the fitness levels of our students. And third, the literature has exposed that we do not have a lot of study or scientific research in teacher effectiveness, specifically in physical education. These three situations, teacher accountability, lack of a common definition, and lack of teacher effectiveness research, led to the design of this study. So here we have the three research questions. What are the perceptions of novice and experienced physical educators regarding what determines teacher effectiveness? Two, how did they come to that definition of teacher effectiveness? And three, what are their perceptions regarding teacher evaluation and specifically the Danielson framework for teaching? And here you can see the theoretical frameworks that were used to guide the study. These are the methods and the participants that were in our study. We utilize unstructured interviews, direct observation, written documents such as lesson plans, and of course the Danielson framework to include the protocol recommended by the Danielson group. Our participants included 9, 4 female, 5 male, 4 elementary, 2 middle school, and 3 high school. Novice teachers were defined as less than 3 years experience teaching physical education, while experienced educators had more than 3 years teaching physical education. So here is Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching. It is a valid and reliable tool for teacher observation connected to increased performance of student learning. What makes it unique is that one, again, it is valid and reliable. Two, the process in which observations are conducted are different. They begin with a conversation about the teaching episode that is going to happen in the future. Two, the observation takes place, and following the observation, the evaluator provides a scripted episode, very detailed, of the observation that took place, and the teacher gets a copy of this. Then the teacher and the evaluator separately evaluate the teaching episode. This provides an opportunity for both the observer to reflect on what they've seen and for the teacher to reflect on their teaching. And then four, they meet together and they come up with the summary of what was observed in the teaching. They talk about it, they have a conversation, they fill in gaps where perhaps the evaluator did not understand what took place the day before, or perhaps where the educator or the teacher did not see something that the observer did. So it's a conversation about teaching. It offers the opportunity for teachers to grow, and it offers both the evaluator and the teacher an opportunity to reflect and to really think about teaching and have a conversation about effective teaching. The themes that emerged from question 1, what is effective teaching, were effective teaching behaviors and strategies like systems and routines, managing a positive environment. Second, student behavior and response, how students respond to the teacher, how they are engaged in the classroom. Third, support systems outside of the classroom, such as administration, systems like class sizes, scheduling, spaces. Teaching behaviors outside of the classroom, like teacher reflection, professional development. And finally, determining one's own effectiveness was a challenge shared by many participants. One participant, when it came to teaching effective behavior, shared, "There's a struggle with getting a true measurement in PE because you're trying, of course, you bring activities and you want to have fun with the kids, but you want to teach them like when they leave you. So sometimes you don't hear it until the next semester or even the next school year. For example, they started walking in their neighborhood, or they started riding a bike, or they taught their sibling how to do something you taught them. So sometimes, like, the kids let you know, and that's how you know you've been effective, that you've taught them something, many times after the fact." One participant shared regarding the importance of administrative support, shared, "I think because of the other ones being tested," referring to the other subject areas, "like my principal came into my gym 2 times this last school year. The first time because the city mayor was there. Like, I had almost never seen the principal until then, and this was mid-October. The next time was to do my evaluation. I think that just shows because it's not a tested subject. There's so much undeserved freedom. The biggest thing is to be valued, and it's tough because many teachers are not valued. For a principal to make it a priority, for the teachers too, like right now, me and the other coaches, we don't have the same planning period off, so we can't collaborate. It would be nice to be on the same track, to build upon what we're doing, and to be a positive influence. The other school I was at, by the second year, I earned that. They actually cared about my input. If we were to feel valued, that would really help our profession." And in regards to determining one's own effectiveness as a challenge, one participant shared, "I was telling my wife about this. I think I'm not a great PE teacher, but I think I'm one of the best around, and that saddens me." The participant was visibly distraught. "The reason I'm not a great PE teacher is that I could do so much better, so much more, but I'm already doing more than everybody else. It's just naturally, instinct forces you or allows you to slow down and not do as much as you want to because what I see around me. I think the district is good actually, but in other districts around the area, I've been to their schools and the coaches just literally throw out the ball or read the newspaper while the students play, and that's allowed far too often. I think our district is so much better than those around us, but I also think that we should do so much better. I think the expectation of a PE teacher is way too low. You know, principal hires someone, well, I need this coach. He's a good coach, so I guess he can do PE. I think we should have the same kind of expectations as any other teacher in the school. I mean, it's an elective course, but it's not hard either. It's not hard to play." Thematic categories for question 2, how do teachers come about to defining teacher effectiveness, were categorized into 3 areas. Themes common to both novice and experienced, themes only that novice educators reported, and unique themes for experienced educators. Common to novice and experienced educators were criteria such as the influence of their education, their ability to adapt, and their experience in becoming an effective teacher. With experience, they change somewhat of their philosophies, a responsibility to students as for being a teacher and trying to make a difference, a genuine care for students and their purpose in teaching. Unique to novice educators was the importance of professional development and how much they appreciated very specific quality professional development for them, especially as they begin their careers in physical education. Unique to experienced educators, they came about with their definitions on teacher effectiveness, many times through their own personal motivation and enjoyment. For example, one teacher shared, "The person must really want to change. I think PE teachers of old are just that, old. I don't want to change, and today's society moving so greatly toward technology, even myself, that's probably where I'm weakest at, and more of fear. However, it's the reality that if I want to keep up, and if I want my students to keep up, then I have to drop some of those fears and go." Another participant shared, No, I always go back to if I'm not learning, then I need to change something. If I just did the same thing every year, I think I would be so burned out. Same thing every year, same thing every day. Don't change my warm-up station, so I need to learn, learn, learn. Referring to the importance of personal motivation and really having a joy in teaching. Another teacher shared, I want them to laugh. I want them to enjoy it, but I'm not just going to roll out the ball so they can be happy. Being passionate, and for me, a lot of times, it's just like willing to persevere. The themes that emerge for question 3, what are the perceptions of using the FFT in physical education, came down to perceptions of teacher evaluation systems, their fresh perspectives on the FFT, which only one participant had ever had prior knowledge about the FFT, and finally they shared some closing perspectives on effective teaching. So perceptions of teacher evaluation systems. One participant shared, the evaluator is probably one of the biggest disadvantages. Positives, you do learn from the evaluation if done right, because you're being told, here's what you did, here's what we like, here's what you did that we don't like, or whatever the case may be. The worst case is you're teaching good for one day and you're like, that wasn't that hard, I can do this all the time. It doesn't have some accountability. Even if you narrow it down to a couple of things or even one thing, you've got to have more than what you did before. A person should learn from an evaluation if it is done right. Another participant shared, with administrators coming in, they really don't know what to look for in a PE teacher. They know the gist of what a good teacher looks like, but maybe not PE necessarily. Being evaluated by another PE teacher would be the ultimate. They know what I'm working with. They know the situations. I think it would be great for professional development. When it came to the Danielson perspectives, one participant shared, I felt like it gave me more of a realistic evaluation of how I was doing. I will say a big part of it is the self-evaluation that the Danielson framework. When I got mine back, I was just scratching my head on what I need to work on, but the FFT is very specific, so it provides more direction. I think with my experience in both, the self-evaluation is more meaningful. Another participant shared with regards to the FFT, I like that the teacher can come in and provide additional information about instruction that occurred before the lesson. It does allow for explanation rather than just defending myself. I get to evaluate beforehand and talk objectively about what I did. In addition to some of these comments, some of the participants shared very unique suggestions for actually using the FFT. For example, they needed the opportunity to sit down and reflect immediately after the lesson, instead of waiting for a week or 2 weeks later to get the report back from the observation, or the opportunity to record them teaching so that they could, in fact, do a quality self-evaluation of their teaching versus trying to remember what they did at the end of the day. So some really unique suggestions on using the FFT. And some also shared how challenging it would be for an administrator to actually be able to conduct 60 or 70 in-depth evaluations at this magnitude with a pre-conference, a evaluation done quickly, a real post-conversation with every teacher, and taking the time to do it right. That in essence would also be a challenge and something that would need to really be looked into. And finally, as the second interview was coming to a close, many participants wanted to share some closing remarks, which included, so like this interview now, that's all I'm doing, talking about how I teach and why. What I get out of it forces me to evaluate why I'm doing what I do and why I have the organization that I do and why I do it, just in general, why I do it. And that's what makes me effective. Anytime you talk about teaching, it at least makes you evaluate yourself. I've gotten a lot out of this interview. It's made me look back and go, okay, why do I do this activity? And how does this relate? And I have touched on these different things that I covered in the first semester, and now it's the last week of school. Another participant shared, just talking to you today, I've never had a conversation like this with somebody that understands this. I can talk to the wife about it, but she doesn't know about PE. And other fellow coaches, they just want to go home after training. I don't blame them. Another participant shared, no, but I will say because of this, I'm probably going to reflect, plan, and really think about what and how I'm doing things. Every summer I spend it kind of planning, but I think I'm going to go at it a totally different way. The results and the findings of this study had similar connections to what was found in the literature and found in the theoretical frameworks that guided the study. Specifically, Strong's teacher effective checklist, many of those characteristics were also part of the perceptions shared by the participants of this study. The adult learning theory tied to question 2 on how they come to determine their effective teaching and define effective teaching. And 3, the widget effect. To the participants and to what research has previously reported, teacher evaluations are many times not valued because teacher perceives that the results of the evaluations are not consistent, that there's no accountability tied to them, and the subjectivity involved in teacher evaluations. To the example that one participant said, I work really hard, I perform well every day, and a colleague that does not do that, that loafs off, that does not take their teaching very seriously, scores the same as I do on a teacher evaluation. And recommendations, large-scale studies, more training on tools and assessments for our teachers that are out there. If we want some data and we want some accountability, then we need to train them on how to do that, or we need to work together and figure out how to do that. Collaboration between PEAT programs, school districts, higher ed, to really study the effects of assessment and how to do them in different situations and disseminate information. We need to make sure our administrators know what physical education is all about and what quality looks like. We need that pre and post data, and we need to show our value to others. And if nobody else is showing that value to us, then we have to be active participants in that role. We need to welcome our administrators into the gym if they're never likely to come in on their own. We need to promote and educate. And most importantly, as many participants shared, how are we going to hold ourselves accountable? Because many of us do every day, but like in any profession, many don't. And since nobody else is holding us accountable, that leaves us to figure that out. Well, thank you for your time. I wanted to extend my gratitude to the participants of this study. It reminded me of how fortunate and proud I am to be a member of this discipline. Thank them for their honesty, participation, and dedication. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me. And if there's anyone out there interested in pursuing this line of study on effective teaching, please contact me as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.